and the power of community, which I want to talk to you a little bit more about and dig a little bit deeper there. Like, again, in hindsight, it all seems so obvious. Now you're building a brokerage. How advantageous is it to have this community of I Love Mortgage Broker? But like, when you started that, you didn't really know where it would go, but it sounds like you had some idea that like there is value in connecting people in that way. And in many ways, you've been able to build a business around that. Can you just maybe speak to the power of community as you've seen it and what that's meant for you and now Bricks
Yeah, sure. I
Mortgage?
could probably give a couple different examples when I think about the community aspect. So I listen to the podcast that I like, I Love Marketing, with Dean Jackson and Joe Polish. And the thing that I found when I go to a mortgage conference, I actually usually found more value in sitting in the lobby, having a beer or a coffee with a top producer and just asking lots of questions. I was like, my goodness, just the value I'm getting from this conversation was significantly higher than often I get from the speakers. And so the other part, that the reason that I started the podcast was because I was like, how do I do more of those conversations? How do I talk to people like Peter Matheny and these other top producers that have been in the business a long time and have a lot of wisdom? And then I thought, why don't I just record them in a podcast format? Then other people can learn. And I've been grateful that so many people have been willing to, jump on and do that with me. I recorded 10 podcasts before I even launched the show because I had heard most people don't get past 6. So I'm like, well, if I record 10, then at least I got past most people when I started. And if you listen to my first shows, I was very nervous. I was extremely nervous, and I followed a very rigid conversation structure, which I don't as much now. Now I just, again, follow my curiosity. That's how that piece came. Then the other part, when it comes to the training, so what I would do, and I'd look at somebody, I would talk about their business, and there was conversations that happened recorded, and you turn off the recorder, and then sometimes it'd be dropping gold that they're like, oh man, I wish the recorder was on because this is so dang good. And so what would happen is that I was looking for things I could duplicate. And I use the example of like, Michael Jordan's a fantastic basketball player, but if he could coach you, it's very unlikely you or I are ever going to be able to dunk from the free throw line, no matter how much he coaches us. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's just unique to his skill set. But what I can do is, what are the things in his game, if you will, that I can duplicate in my business? And that's always what interested me. Once I found enough of those, that's what propelled me into creating the training company. Because I'm like, hey, these are actually, you don't have to be a Michael Jordan to do this. A lot more people can use this. And so that led me into creating the training company. And that sort of led me down that path. And in the training company, what I loved about the training is that I would give my best ideas to people that would come into it. And some of them would take the ideas and improve them. I would be like, oh my gosh, you just took my idea and upgraded it. So the thing would constantly improve because there was this feedback loop of best ideas, smart people. They're running a bunch of experiments in different markets and different personalities. Some stuff would come back and you'd be like, oh man, you just upgraded it for everybody. And so it was this constant, we still do today, but that's what I love about doing coaching and working with smart people, is that collaborative effect is like no one person is smarter than the group if the group has access to the same information. And so that's the thing I love about the collaborative piece. It's like, man, it's very powerful.
Yeah, that's kind of reminiscent of like the Medici effect. You sort of like put work into the world around other people that are putting work into the world, and you let other people judge, improve. You're constantly putting stuff out, being judged.
I don't know what the Medici effect is. So like, I've never heard of this before. So, and I like these. So this is great, whatever this new Medici is.
So yeah, not to go down to like a deep rabbit hole, but basically the Renaissance era around Italy at that time, basically the Medici, they were a family, they loved art, and they started collecting all these artists from all over the place and asking them to come there and perform their art.
I see. Right.
Either like they were a painter, musician, otherwise, and they were funding a lot of these artists like in their early days. And it's like where a lot of the best, most expensive art as we know it today, without going in like on an artist level, because you recognize some by name, and or maybe you don't follow art at all and you recognize none by name. Suffice to say, a bunch of really famous artists from today started all around the same period.
I think that same thing happens in Silicon Valley. Like if you look at Silicon Valley over the last 25, 30 years, like look at the concentration of talent in that area and what it's produced for the world. And so, yes, I think that we can do that in an extremely small scale in the mortgage space by putting smart people together and sharing. And I think they'd say the Medici, they would probably have the like, it's the Medici effect. You got to put some like, a little bit of personality in that.
Yeah. You got to throw some hand into it.
You got to throw some hand actions. Or like, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's right.